unprecedented celestial alignment between Neptune and the North Node is opening a real-life healing portal capable of massive quantum release of karmic, ancestral, and subconscious patterns. None of this is coincidental. It's happening at a pivotal moment in Pluto's deep dive into Aquarius, where we're not only beginning a new chapter, but also stepping into an entirely new book of humanity's future. What a rad time to be alive! Coinciding with this Capricorn new moon, we're being guided through this transformative portal and called to commit to a heart-centered vision that's not simply focused on 2025, but the next 20 years of humanity's evolution. With a T-square and Mars retrograde urging us to dive within and a mystic rectangle integrating profound karmic healing potential, this lunation asks, will you rise as an authentic heart-led leader and embrace the future we are being called to create? Join me as we crack the code on the personal and collective implications of this unique cosmic moment in time. Welcome to the void, that weird time between Christmas and New Year's where no one knows what day it is, nothing gets accomplished, and all you want to do is eat cheese and chocolate at weird times. Kind of interesting that this year we have a new moon Capricorn falling particularly during arguably the laziest week of the year. Capricorn brings a serious vibe to this period, and maybe also a reminder that the Gregorian calendar and time itself are kind of a construct, and that taking a break from our commitments isn't really the way right now. But you know what? We're like all really, really tired. Sometimes I feel like I'm existentially exhausted for like the whole world. Because although things are dismantling, there's still a lot, too much grind going on. And especially at the holidays, a lot of people participating in traditions and rules and expectations that they do kind of unconsciously without heart or a clear purpose. And I think that's what this new moon is trying to work on with us, creating heart-based driven intentions for the new year so that we can be more our authentic self and less unconscious zombies. But there's a lot more to it right now than simply dragging our feet into 2025. So let's crack the code on the rich guidance this chart has to offer us. So this chart isn't quite as densely packed with aspects, so it will allow us to go a little bit deeper on the aspects and placements that are here. While I usually go individual placements up to the biggest aspect, this chart really has me wanting to start with the bigger picture concepts and integrations and then bring it down to the individual experiences. So still holding on into the new year is the mystic rectangle with Mars retrograde opposed Pluto in Aquarius, along with the nodal opposition inching closer and in conjunction with Neptune in Pisces. And we still have that T-square with the Jupiter-Mercury detriment mutual reception opposition putting pressure on Saturn in Pisces, all with the overarching question, why during a Capricorn new moon? You know, as much as I read charts intellectually, for a lot of energies, you really can't anticipate what they will feel like until you're physically in them. And this nodal opposition with North Node soon crossing the draconic 0 degree of Aries while being conjunct Neptune in Pisces is a really trippy feeling. 0 Aries is the beginning of the zodiac. There's a specific chart we can run called the Draconic chart that specifically puts your birth info against the Draconic degree. That's known as a soul chart, and without getting too deep into it, our natal charts give us specific clues and guidance around the purpose behind why our individuated souls incarnated into this particular lifetime, while a Draconic chart is calculating the guidance around intent of the soul beyond this specific incarnation. So kind of a greater purpose beyond the scope of this earthly experience. Pretty rad, right? And before I jump back into my point here, if that's something that you are interested in checking out, it's definitely something we can do together in one-on-one session space or in one of my deep dive analyses. And we can crack the code on the bigger picture together. The specific guidance of a Draconic chart may not be as directly actionable in your current life, but knowledge is power, and hey, it's cool info to explore if you're into that. Stay tuned later in this episode for the different ways to contact me, because that's totally something I would love to explore with you. Right now, the nodes are at 1 degree, and in 2 weeks or so, the North Node will hit 0 Aries. 0 degrees for the nodes is a powerful karmic reset for humanity. It symbolizes bold new beginnings, independence, and authentic self-expression. It's a time for courage, taking decisive action, and releasing the patterns of codependency and external validation tied to the South Node Libra. Now, this isn't new news. It's what we've been talking about and working on for a while. But that 0 degree point, which we're not quite at just yet, is really the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's cycle. You can think of 0 Aries as the starting point when a soul incarnates into a physical human body. However, just 1 degree off of that is 29 Pisces, essentially the last stop a soul takes incarnate before it goes back to spirit beyond 3D reality. So although it's not rare for North Node to hit 0 Aries, the cycle takes about 18.5 years. So the last time we were here was April 7th, 2006, roughly September 26th, 1987, and you can keep going back from there. However, what makes this specific one really unique is that while the nodes are also beginning their next cycle through the zodiac, we also have Neptune about to do the same thing. Now, Neptune's full cycle in the zodiac is 165 years long. So while the North Node and Neptune do align sometimes from time to time, to have that occur so close to the draconic degree and have them both crossing that degree within a few months of each other, it seems like a really significant opening of consciousness for humanity itself. Like, I spent a fair amount of time this week trying to calculate the last time that this actually happened, and guys, I'm not sure it ever actually has. At least not since we've been tracking this stuff. This is probably one of the most underplayed, under-talked about astrological aspects in recent memory. Basically, what we have here is an actual real-life healing portal capable of massive quantum release of karmic, ancestral, and subconscious patterns happening explicitly at the time that we are building the new foundation of vision for humanity moving forward. This isn't just a new chapter, it's almost like a new book entirely. So while all of that is going on, it's not just happening alone in the chart, but while in the configuration of a mystic rectangle. Wow. And not just an ordinary mystic rectangle, because it's been holding and will continue to stay aspected in this configuration all the way through until the nodes have shifted into Pisces Virgo. So there's some really important messages and integrations relating deeply to the healing of humanity in this aspect. North Node collectively signifies the qualities, themes, and lessons that the collective is meant to embrace in order to evolve into a more conscious, harmonious, and unified existence. The South Node points to the energy patterns we're meant to release and transcend. Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, represents the soul's connection to higher consciousness, spirituality, and the transcendence of egoic protective endeavors into the expansion of unity consciousness and the oneness of it all. It can also show us areas where we're more likely to fall into delulu, confusion, escapism, and deception, specifically as a tool for us to cultivate compassion and healing of our beliefs and surrender to spirituality itself. Okay, so what does that all mean? Well, basically on January 11th, when the nodes hit 0, we're going to wake up in a different, perfect, euphoric world where unity consciousness has been achieved and we essentially get to live out our human incarnation as heaven on earth. Well, no. Just kidding, sort of. Now we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but if you've listened to me yap the last few weeks especially, there's been a lot of talk about the Jupiter-Mercury opposition that's both in detriment and mutual reception. Basically, they're opposed, learning the lessons of each other's ruling sign at the same time. What I've deduced from that very specific alignment is that the consciousness of humanity is in a way being split wide open. Conceptually speaking, the beliefs that we hold about life itself dictate the projection of the world that we live in. Now that's like a fun, woo, spiritual thing to say, right? But it's a very different experience to live through the opening of that and to really embrace and believe in it. And I think that's what this T-square on Saturn has been guiding us to do for the last few months. Because this unique North Node conjunct Neptune shift at the start and end of the zodiac holds a ton of guidance. First off, there's a focus on our new beginnings coming with spiritual vision. And that itself is kind of the definition of consciousness. It's not merely being awake and aware. It's the process of waking up and becoming aware of our energetic connection to each other through our minds, hearts, and souls. It's beginning a new chapter of collective evolution by courageously stepping into leadership while being deeply and consciously aware of the interconnectedness of life itself. This is the initiation of a new paradigm that honors and holds space for both the individual and the collective all at once. So, yeah, a little different from where humanity has been for the last few centuries. The key lessons of this opposition between the nodes have been around reclaiming personal power through spiritually awakened conscious principles rather than egoic vanity, fear, and personal safety being prioritized. So it totally aligns that the integration of this rectangle entangles with Mars retrograde now at 2 Leo, because there's a challenge to balance the ideals of leadership, but in a way that is deeply informed by our intuitions, compassion, and with care and compassion for the oneness of all beings. Because we have Pluto at 1 Aquarius, creating our new personal visions specifically with the collective in mind. Humanity and us as individuals have spent way too much time in our suffering and partaking in systems and practices that keep others in systems of suffering as well. And boy, have I been feeling that opposition lately. Many times I feel like I'm almost an alien here. My chart kind of agrees because not only is my South Node Aquarian on my natal, but on my own draconic chart itself, my Sun is in Aquarius. So in many ways, my soul's not really from Earth, and I've spent lifetimes feeling pretty weird and somewhat misplaced here. Because I've already experienced and I understand unity consciousness. And to live in separation here, it's kind of, well, weird and hurtful. But we're not here to talk about my chart. I bring it up because of how it feels. Right now, in the earliest stages of Pluto's renovation of Aquarius. Sometimes it can feel like we as a society are just not doing anything useful. I can honestly say social constructs, like the example that the whole no one wants to work anymore thing. It's hard for me to understand how people don't see it by now. Because of course no one wants to work anymore. Why should people want to work in the current environment and the systems that we have set up? I'm not saying work itself is a bad thing. It's not. There's tons of joy and growth and purpose in aligned work. But what we're doing as a society right now is unconscious, divisive work filling the pockets of just a small amount of people. And we're becoming more conscious of it every single moment. And I really feel like this Mars retrograde opposed Pluto in the mystic rectangle with the North Node conjunct Neptune opposing South Node Libra at the same time as this T-square with Jupiter, Mercury, and Saturn. It's showing us in little bits and fragments, more digestible ways, all of the things that can't come with us into an Aquarian future that prioritizes humanity's consciousness. Because in order to find our courage, North Node 1 Aries, we have to lead with deeper connection and trust in spirituality itself, Neptune 27 Pisces. Because that is what's building the greater vision for humanity, from within the individual and its connections to the betterment of the collective at large, Pluto 1 Aquarius. That requires us stepping into heart-driven personal leadership, because it's not about being the warrior anymore. It's about evolving that Aries Leo-driven masculine energy into a protector who leads with healing and growth as the new goals, letting go of money, power, and ego as the drivers. This is why Mars retrograde in Leo and Cancer is an integral part of the equation. Our feelings are required here. Because under the surface, fueling this right now has been the disconnect and wounded feminine energy. That's why we collectively get to transcend the habits of codependency in the sense that we've, in many ways, prioritized staying quiet and peacekeeping at the expense of our own justice and fairness. South Node Libra. Now listen, I'm not trying to prophesize anything here, but come late March, we have a clusterfuck of planets joining at the Aries-Pisces line, and that includes a solar eclipse at 9 Aries. And this could mean a lot of things and unfold in a lot of ways, but to be frank, it feels a lot like revolution energy. As we are simultaneously waking up to all of the ways that we've participated in our own suffering, oppressed our damn selves, held each other back, focused on individual survival rather than unity and collective thrival. Well, we're being primed right now to see these fear patterns and fucking transcend the shit out of them. Because Pluto Capricorn is over. Working soullessly harder rather than smarter at the expense of ourselves just to come up short is basically becoming gut-wrenchingly impossible for a lot of people. That's why no one wants to work anymore. And as much as I always tend to associate the Aries-Libra nodal opposition as being very masculine and feminine, I really think this is also a huge part of it. Capitalism is an unconscious masculine structure, and South Node Libra is humanity's codependent survival attachment to money, at the expense of things that we love, equality, and personal harmony. But we're in Pluto and Aquarius territory now, and we're in it for the vision, baby. But that doesn't come from the continuation of old, outdated survival patterns. It comes from revolution. Now we're going to jump ahead just for a moment and sneak peek the chart just for a second because it leads into my next point about the mystic rectangle that we're currently in. Now listen, there is a lot of Mars and Aries in here, not gonna lie. But remember, the purpose is not to continue the way we've been doing things, like war. How many eons has humanity fought and killed in the name of temporary peace? I mean, look at the Middle East and Israel-Palestine if you want real-life case study of how war only gets us so far. They're still fighting and killing and hurting each other over sand. And I'm not trying to downplay their devotion here, but the only difference between that sand and the sand in any other part of the world is the beliefs that humans have attached to it, why it's sacred. For some reason, people seem to think that sand is worth the blood of tens of thousands of living humans, and that some kind of fake border, control, and ownership of said holy land is more important than the blood and bodies of humanity. And that's why Neptune is here and deeply involved in this rectangle, because we're here to evolve masculine warrior energy. Because guess where the warrior planet is while all of that Aries energy is going on? Well, because of this retrograde right here, right now, by March, he's going to be in the third decan of Cancer, reconnecting with feminine mother energy. I think that's specifically because this Aries Pisces stuff needs to be guided from a caretaking perspective. Specifically because war is a cycle continually producing short-term reactive results that are fed by power. Very unconscious Aries. If we feed the Aries Pisces eclipse with compassion, we transition into caretaking protectors on behalf of the collective. I'm not saying that's going to go down in a peaceful way. There's just too much Uranus energy involved to predict anything here. However, I can tell you mathematically the goal here is not to repeat the cycle. That's literally the entire point. So jumping back into the present moment here, this all begs the question, what the fuck are we doing and why? Mystic rectangles provide guidance, but the balance of its opposition purposefully leads to integration. So that being said, the key lesson here is about integrating personal autonomy of Aries, the individual, with the collective, Aquarius. It's about finding your voice in leadership, Leo, in a way that's aligned with the greater spiritual truth of unity consciousness and interconnectedness, Pluto, Aquarius, and Pisces, all guided by the justice for all without martyring each other in the process, Libra. Now I know what I just said is a lot, and that's why I'm here to help. Lately I've been reading charts of some absolutely amazing healers and leaders, many of which were somewhat unconscious about these paths and energies prior to the reading. There's so much conscious power in aligning your New Year's intentions with your chart and the energies that best support your growth. And it would be my honor to crack that code with you. Hell, for the first time ever on this episode right here, I'm also throwing in an extra sneak peek at your draconic soul chart into the mix. So anyone who books from this episode, mention this blurb, and if you do a one-on-one reading, I'll add, at no additional cost, a peek at your draconic soul chart too. If you order a written analysis, I'll add a section on that also. It's just so important right now that we align our energies with our own nodal paths and really find our authentic voices. Because the revolution energy is upon us, and the way we find clarity on our next steps is by aligning with the truth of our hearts. There is no other way, because we're not looking for force here. That's old paradigm. We're looking for flow. And flow comes naturally when we're in alignment with our truest selves and our deepest desires. It doesn't come from the armor we wear, the protective mechanisms we engage, or the comfort of patterns. When we're tasked with putting our trust in a future that we can't see or visualize yet, knowing ourselves better is where we find the clarity. It won't come from outside of us. It is up to us to be the compassionate, committed, heart-led leaders of our own lives, and hold each other's hands through a transforming reality. And speaking of clarity, this T-square between Jupiter, Mercury, and Saturn is still holding too. So if you felt really cloudy for the last few weeks, it could be from all that cheese that you ate over the holidays. But it's probably also primarily from this T-square. That opposition between Jupiter retrograde, now at 13, Gemini, and Mercury direct at 18, Sag, is still going strong. I admit, I didn't expect that to be such a cloud. but in mutual reception, detriment, and opposition, I feel like these planets are busy learning each other in order to help us expand our points of view. Since Jupiter is still in retrograde in Gemini, there's an inner expansion at play here. Gemini is known to be interested in a lot of different things. Retrogrades are a time of review and inner work. So together, this Jupiter retrograde is showing us all of the many ways we get to be curious about our inner patterns and what makes us tick. This is a process of both showing us patterns we need to release, but also what drives our real authentic expression, what really makes us tick and feel alive. And at the Uranus degree right now, there may be some surprises in there. Maybe it's things that you really love and enjoy and haven't been able to prioritize because they don't match up to actions that equate to survival, hard work, and money. And while I haven't even gotten to the new moon yet, remember, we're in Capricorn season, and this T-square involves Capricorn's ruler, Saturn. There is so much value found in following our bliss, passions, and curiosities. Jupiter in Gemini is exploring so many different avenues that will lead to your expanded consciousness. Because like I said a few moments ago, when we are in alignment with what we love, our authentic expression and interests, that is precisely where we find the flow. And it's exactly what the planets and the doctor ordered right now, and that we're being tasked at creating a new aligned vision for the future and for humanity. One where the thriving of ourselves and the collective are prioritized over money, work, structure, rigidity. Now, at the same time, Jupiter is helping us explore our inner world. We have Mercury, the ruler of Gemini and Virgo, getting a lesson on beliefs and the bigger picture of its opposite sign at 18 Sagittarius. As a personal planet, Mercury is heavily involved in how we communicate, seek out, and process information. In Sag, it's like a machine brainchild, putting together the patterns and bits of knowledge it's collected, extracting the wisdom from there, and deducing and weaving new beliefs about life itself. And I think, in a sense, that is contributing to the cloudiness, especially if you're a heavy air sign. Because Sag is fire. It's combustion and synthesis. It's active. And it's got Mercury hard at work with information, stories, and understanding. As a fire burns, there is intermittent smoke. But as the smoke moves with the air and temporarily clears through the winds of Gemini and Aquarius, we are getting glimpses and glimmers of the greater clarity that is in process of developing, the new beliefs that will fuel our vision moving forward. It's at a Mars degree too, so there's a vibe that we want to take action, but then, because Jupiter is still retrograde, there's a bit of a halt because we can't see what we're doing or where we're going with much clarity. Like driving in a fog, you can move forward, but you gotta go slow and with caution. So it makes a lot of sense that during the challenge of balancing inner expansive curiosity with combustion of our worldly beliefs, we may feel out of sorts or hazy and even out of body at times. My experience of that has been the clarity seems to come in waves that I can't really control or call upon. It can come in a dream, while I'm driving, just randomly on a Friday afternoon doing laundry. So if you're feeling frustration and confusion around that, remember that this is not about force, it's about flow. Because ultimately, this T-square is pressurizing Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, at a Mercury degree of 14 Pisces. As we talked about earlier, Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, is deep in its Pisces transit, inching towards the end of the zodiac. So this is about our commitment to healing through utilizing the gifts of information, wisdom, and understanding. But we must first participate in the process of finding ourselves underneath the heaps of information to find and determine our own truths and what we personally find valuable and important. Saturn is keeping us committed to this process. And well, especially in a Capricorn new moon, that kind of feels deeply serious. And it is. It's incredibly important. The work we're doing now may feel slow, and because we can't see an end or completely visualize the goal, sometimes it can feel lower octave Pisces, hopelessness. To balance that out, we can look towards the opposite side of the chart to 14 Virgo, which I think is particularly specific because soon the nodes will be shifting to the Pisces-Virgo axis and the collective focus will be on both of these signs. It's pretty simple though. Basically, the relief from the constant search for meaning and sorting through information and beliefs comes through presence in the body. This means utilizing intuition in your body for answers. How does that make you feel? Because Virgo loves to solve problems. When it can't or doesn't have enough information, that can produce anxiety. That's where we reach for the built-in relief mechanism, the present of presence, just being with your feelings. Get in your body, move around, take a walk, and exercise. Especially if you're an air sign, it's important to take breaks and relieve the mind for a few minutes. And I know for me, that's actually where I receive the most clarity. I can set out to think and meditate and process and do intense healing work. I can read the charts for answers and guidance. But sometimes the best way for me to process information and see the patterns is to simply take a break. Take a long drive, occupy my mind with a physical task that seems to keep that part of my brain busy so the processing side finds relief and flow. When I can focus part of my brain on some form of physical activity, I most effortlessly receive the downloads of ideas and clarity. It's a crucial part of understanding patterns and finding the connection. It's almost like you have to let it marinate a little bit. So follow me for more overthinking relief tips from a Gemini with a Grand Trine Air. And on that note, thank you so much for sticking with me thus far. We've finally reached the overarching question of this chart. Why all of this now during a new moon in Capricorn? So this moon and sun are conjunct at 9 degrees Capricorn, the Mars action degree. Perhaps some foreshadowing of what's to come early next year when Mars Aries energy is highlighted along with Pisces. When there's a new moon, we're combining the energy of feeling to expand the energy of identity and who we are. There's a commitment and responsibility to the actions taken here that can influence the next cycle of life. So I think the reason we have this all going on, like that specific T-square around information and beliefs, and the huge undertaking of integrating the lessons of the Aries Libra nodes during this particular end-of-year new moon, is to help us set intentions that we want to carry through into 2025 and beyond. Now, that can all seem like a tall task, given everything we've discussed around fogginess and inner work and the unfolding of new beliefs. But that's exactly why, at this point, it's an intention rather than a clear vision. Because this energy is about getting us comfortable in the fog without losing our hearts in the process. One thing that I find really interesting about this energy is that as we become more conscious, sometimes our patterns and our nervous system responses and our ego and our very humanness still overtake all of this work. It takes a lot of repetition to reprogram our patterns. What I mean is we can have all the clarity, a huge bolt of clarity, and a little while later it's almost like we forget. I think that's part of the overall integration. I think a lot of woo-woo spiritual awakening frames this process as instant, and maybe perhaps some people experience it that way, like with a near-death experience or something like that. However, the subtleties of healing from trauma and karmic patterns are rarely completed in an instant. It's a process. Instead, we learn, we realize, we synthesize, and then we get tested on it. Sometimes we fall back into the patterns. Sometimes we get stuck and do nothing. Sometimes we stall in the confusion of it all. Because, well, feelings are messy, and especially when we're not sure what part of us they're coming from. And that's part of the purpose of the inner work we are doing right now. It's to figure out the source of our feelings. Is this really coming from our hearts, or is this coming from our fear and our survival? The answer is really important. New moons are joining together of feminine, lunar, intuitive, feeling-led practices with masculine, solar, active, fiery leadership energy. It's inner work and outer work combined. And because it's happening while we are synthesizing new information and integrating this nodal mystic rectangle, we are urged to stay committed and excellence-driven about how we want to feel and what we want to receive. What is underneath our determination to go out and take action? Ultimately, it's alignment with how we want to feel and what we want to receive. It's feminine in nature. So, as usual, the math be mathing here. We have South Node Libra finalizing its lesson on how we show up in the world to receive harmony, peace, and flow, and how codependency and martyrdom are not part of the equation that leads to that. We have North Node Aries conjunct Neptune showing the masculine how to become a courageous protector, giving us greater capacity to heal. Because the collective goal is to create a world that's better for everyone. It's fully inclusive and not just around social hot-button issues. It doesn't discriminate or leave anyone out. No one person or group benefits at the expense of another. And obviously, we are not quite there yet. We have a lot more work to do within ourselves and with each other in order to receive the true safety and peace that comes with the empowered bravery of evolving our masculine energy. And you know, as much as I have found myself in the fog lately, as much as I myself have struggled to align with my intentions, as much as I forget and human along the way, it really is an absolute miracle to be alive right now for this opening of consciousness. And I don't doubt for a second that we are all quite lucky to be here right now experiencing this together, even and especially when it doesn't feel like it. The moments where it feels like an absolute struggle and a curse and hell on earth to be alive. So connect with and expand that energy, even if just for the briefest of moments. Think of the world right now. It's okay to connect with the pain of separation. All humans in this era suffer from an abandonment wound that is a byproduct of the process of separating from the oneness of it all and individuating into a human body. It is a necessary part of the experience. And it's okay to feel it. It's okay to feel sad about how far apart we are from each other. It's okay to feel alone among billions. Now take a deep breath and, close your eyes if you wish and just really feel your heart. Think about the idealized version of the world that you wish to receive and live in, your heaven on earth. If you're a visual person, you may see yourself at the edge of a cliff, looking out onto a new world. Feel the truth that lives in your heart. Focus on how love, peace, unity, and harmony, how they actually feel inside your body. This is the intention for 2025 and beyond. This is the Pluto in Aquarius New World vision. We don't have to know how we get there yet. Right now we're tasked at holding the intention and vision. Lastly, take a moment to feel the gratitude and excitement with the idea that you, specifically you, right here, right now, get to be on Earth to experience the transition from darkness to light. Out of the infinite combination of cells and humans available in the quantum field, somehow you get to be one of the 8 billion or so real live people who get to live out the experience of awakening and opening of conscious awareness. That's fucking incredible. What are the chances? I hope in these long, dark, slow days of winter, at least if you're on the northern hemisphere, you're able to connect to that gratitude, even if just for a moment. No matter what part of the earth you're watching this from, this is the energy of the sun combined with the energy of the moon, offering the chance to step into a true portal of consciousness. We get to follow the light in this dark tunnel of rebirth. And it's worth grasping for and holding on to. So let your heart guide you and don't worry so much about the rest. The next step always illuminates when it's meant to. Because we are literally here to let it flow, 'cause it won't stop. Thank you so much for joining me on Crack the Code and trusting my guidance. It is part of the mission of my North Node to follow my bliss as a heart-led leader and be of service to others through channeling the guidance of the charts as we walk through this expanse of space and time. I have some big visions to bring to life in 2025 and beyond. Subscribe to my channel here on YouTube or follow me on Instagram at Sarah Lynn Bliss to be the first to find out about new offerings. To book one-on-one readings, written or video chart analysis, comment on either channel or send a DM to get in touch. I'm so grateful for your support and presence, and I can't wait to connect further and crack the code on the guidance of your own chart. Listen to your heart, follow your bliss, and let it flow, because it won't stop.